that's a bummer. That's an incredible bummer.
That doesn't bother me. Ask after patience, he gives you a tip. I probably shouldn't have asked right before the show. It's perfectly okay. Figure it out in a little bit. All right.
I moved that. I don't know if that's where you wanted or not.
Go ahead and go speak into it.
All right. Tom Harbin here. Welcome to NARBC Arlington. We getting anything?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Got you good. Check 1, 2. All right. Yeah, we'll be able to run it like that.
All right.
Perfect.
All right.
All right. So round 2. Welcome to Outside the Clutch. I'm here with Mr. Tom Harbin. I'm super excited to have him on. It's been a 2-year thing to try to bring him on. He has a history in almost all things animal, which I'm really excited to talk about how his love for animals has literally been a process throughout his entire life and enriched his life. So, Tom, can you tell us a little bit about you growing up, what brought the love for animals about?
Well, probably like any average, possibly normal or abnormal young man, brought my first snake home when I was 6 years old. Mom asked me, "Is that poisonous?" I said, "Of course not." I had no idea. So I've had snakes ever since I was 6 years old, turned 70 last year. So I've had snakes in the house or dorm or apartment or whatever my whole life.
It's awesome.
So,
and you decided to do something different than most of us do. Like, we go to college, we're like, oh, animals, pets.
right.
Okay, we can have a pet, but you literally devoted your whole life to animals, which is outstanding. What made you choose to go into the veterinary field versus
Well, I feel
anything?
like that has a lot to do with my parents. Number one, I was raised in a time to when a lot of people didn't spend money on pets. If they were sick, you didn't take them to the vet. You did whatever to end their life. And so I didn't understand that. And I think that began to create something in my heart. Well, I'm going to do something about that someday. So I began hanging around vet offices and that kind of thing. And I said, this is where I belong. And so that led to go to vet school.
That's amazing.
So I graduated vet school from Auburn University. Next month, it'll be 44 years. So I've been practicing medicine for nearly 50 years now.
What's that like? That has to, like, the balance that you've had to find with being a veterinarian and following your passion with all the breeding projects and things like that.
Well, if people, I love to be busy, but I'm not going to be busy doing something that's not in my heart. So I make time for the things that I love to do. And the thing I like about veterinary medicine and reptiles is I get to meet a lot of people and get to connect with a lot of people. And, we become friends, we become lifelong, companions. And it's really good. It's really good.
You've been going to shows for as long as I can remember. I haven't been in the industry too long coming back.
Right.
What's one of the things about shows that's really stuck out to you over the years?
Well, I think the first show that I ever went to was probably in Birmingham, Alabama, Terry Hearing, Dixie Reptiles, back in the late 80s. And, of course, back then we had albino corn snakes. That was the deal. And catching snakes, and don't do that anymore as far as to sell or to reproduce. But, back then there was maybe 2 shows a year within driving distance, and instead of like it is now. So shows were rare, and they were huge, like this. Even the one in Birmingham back in the day,
really?
They were huge. And, just everybody working together to try to make stuff happen. And this is a whole different world today with, how many shows every weekend? 50 shows every weekend across the country, maybe more.
Insane. Yeah.
It's insane. It's insane. So it's had its ups and downs, with that coming along. So, I started off with an albino corn snake and bought one of those for $10 and raised a few and sold it for $10. And, now I've had the privilege to work with snakes in high dollar, type snakes, which is not any more rewarding emotionally than working with a $10 albino corn snake, but still a lot of fun. The whole reproductive cycle and creating something in captivity, that an animal thrives in captivity by recreating what their natural demands are, uh, is great. And that's that is part of what you and I do in this industry. We educate people.
And speaking of education, you've kind of made it a goal throughout your whole life. Like I've one of my favorite things at the shows is watching you when you're pulling out like one of your hog nose or something that someone hasn't necessarily seen all the
Right,
time, and
right.
you take that time. So education's been a huge key for you. What all have you done as far as education? Because I know we were talking a little bit
Yeah,
before.
yeah, yeah. Well, and at the shows, I feel like I'm doing people a disservice if I don't educate them. I'm not going to send home a snake with you that you know nothing about, and it's going to die in 6 months, right? It's not fair to you. It's not fair to the animal. The child is going to break their heart, you know. Um, so we spend a lot of time educating it, and I don't necessarily vet or background them, you know, and say, no, you can't have one of my snakes, although I do that occasionally. Um, but that has led into, I found out early on that that's something that resonates in my heart, is just education. Um, so I'm probably like most people in this room here at the Arlington show. We go do school shows, Boy Scout stuff, you know, church stuff. But that has grown into this last year. I was invited by Auburn University School of Veterinary Medicine to come up and teach a class to their junior and senior students on reptile reproduction and genetics. And so that has just been one of the dreams of my life to actually be on campus in front of you know students with a microphone in the works. You know,
So is it more of a hands-on or just like an
well,
actual lecture? Or?
we do two things. I give about 5 lectures during the semester, and then in next week or week after when I get back, I will go back on campus and we'll do an ultrasound lab with the students. And so,
That's awesome.
you know, we'll show them anatomy on ultrasound. We'll show them the reproductive cycle of the ball pythons, and so there's both aspects. I'm trying to prepare them to get out. If they have any dreams of doing reptile medicine, you better know the basics. You don't need to be the doctor, you know, but you better know about reptile husbandry, which is what I'm zeroing in with them.
And that's something that I think the country absolutely needs more of. It's very hard to find a good reptile veterinarian anywhere in this country. What while you've been practicing, I know you do exotics as well, but
Yeah, yeah.
do you focus in exotics or do you focus
No,
primarily?
I'm in a general practice, and I don't do birds. There's a few other things I don't do, but any of the pocket pet mammals I do, and then you know snakes, lizards, and turtles, tortoises, I do those. And I'm not a board certified specialist, but I'm a life certified specialist. You know,
Right.
so and there's a difference. You know, I don't claim to be any better than anybody else, but one thing I have developed is, of course, I'm in Montgomery, Alabama. Um, there's not enough exotic people in the Montgomery area to sustain a practice. So people travel 2 to 4 hours to see me. I have on a fairly regular basis. People will overnight FedEx an animal to me, and I will work it up. I will diagnose, and I will recommend treatment or surgery or whatever's needed. And so I keep it for a while, ship it back to the people. And so that's the way that I can be available to anybody in the lower 48
That's amazing.
that needs my services. I had one last month coming from Los Angeles that we worked on, and so had one come up from Indianapolis a couple of months ago that we ended up doing surgery on, and you know, so I offer that service to people
I
too.
never even would have thought about that.
Isn't that
That's
crazy?
amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I mean, thank goodness to Reptiles to you and Ship Your Reptiles and Redline, and you know, they can have that snake for me tomorrow morning, and I can have it on the surgery table tomorrow afternoon.
So let's talk about like in your years of practice there's always one thing that kind of sticks out while you've been working on animals. What's like one of those things that's just over the years has really stuck out to you that you would like to share with people, whether it's just like in their regular husbandry or something like that that we could maybe do better as keepers
Yeah.
overall?
Well, I think as vendors, or if you call you and I, we're keepers, but we also sell. Uh, 90% of the problems that I encounter in veterinary medicine are just out of the owner's simple ignorance. They don't know. And so I can usually solve their problems just by having a conversation. Like this morning, a lady came to my table and she said, "Hey, I've got this California king snake. I have two. One's doing great, the other one won't eat." And so 5-minute conversation, I solved her problem without even seeing the snake. It's just so that's to me that sticks out in my mind every day because I have to just go into the exam room and I'm not this high and mighty doctor. I go in, have a conversation just like you and I are having, and we problem solve. That owner spends 99% of the time with that animal. I get to spend 1% of the time. So I depend heavily on conversation and history taking. So that's not a specific thing. I think the coolest thing that happened to me was way back in the day when the very first lavender hognose hatched. Nobody knew what it was. Grew it up, started breeding, it got sick. And so who do they call? They call me. And I'm thinking, this is a priceless animal. What are we going to do? So I felt like I was really on the hot seat. I might not as much now, but
Take your one a little faster on that one, huh?
yeah. So we got that snake back to breeding condition. He went back breeding, and that's why we still have the lavender hognose in the industry today, because we, as a team, were able to rehab that animal and get him back to breeding condition. So, stuff like that. Most people don't know that, and they don't need to know. But
That's amazing.
But I've been very fortunate to find myself in that situation.
Well, I like to say that I've been very fortunate in a couple of things, and one of them is being able to find a passion like this. Snakes has really driven me to kind of find myself again,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
When I got out of the military, I had a lot of PTSD and things like that, and they've brought me back down and made family life a lot better.
Right.
And praise Jesus, He's helped me a lot too.
Well, thank you for praising Jesus. But also, I tell people every day, which I think I'm hearing you say, that really is very therapeutic.
Absolutely.
To be in the snake room by myself without the phone ring, without people in both ears, they say, Doc. I said, I'm in there cleaning poop. It's very therapeutic.
It's funny how the humbling things make you feel better.
You're attached to God's earth. You're attached to creation, and I don't know. You can't substitute that with books or YouTube videos or all that stuff, So yeah.
So you've been very much a part of one of my favorite projects. I was blessed enough to get into it at its infancy, I would say. It's still rather in its infancy, but
it is.
You came out with a bang right away. Can you tell us a little bit about the Monarch project and how it's kind of established your
collection?
You've
got a Wookiee.
I have. So I have a visual pastel Monarch, a GHI Mojave Het Monarch, and a Wookiee red striped leopard Het Monarch, and possibly some other stuff in there.
Okay.
We're going to figure it out between me and Alyssa.
Okay, you're banging it. Yeah. Well, the Monarch project, Rance Meyer started showing up at Tinley. This has probably been 12 years ago. I'm guessing a little bit with the Monarch project. And he would set up a booth like this. And I was looking at that snake. I said, that's a great snake. Doesn't look like anything I've ever seen before. So I'm talking to Rance, and Rance is just sitting back there in a chair, just like, I don't care. So I looked at it for a couple of years, and he wasn't selling it because he's not a salesman. He's not a people person. He's a fireman, which, I'm happy about that too. So I finally said, you know what? If he's not going to take this project and run with it, somebody's got to. So I contacted Rance, and I said, hey, I want in. And so we worked out a deal, and I got one adult male and a het female and a juvenile visual. And so I was in the breeding business from the get-go. And so I was the first one really to bring monarchs to the marketplace. If you skip Rance, because Rance was not going to bring it to the marketplace. Rance has sold out since. Miri bought his project. And so I've done, quite a few firsts with it. I made the triple recessive genetic stripe clown monarch 3 years ago. That snake is breeding this year. She's probably going to ovulate here in a month, and so we'll see. I also have a Wookiee het monarch, so I'll try not to get too far ahead of you. But
I'm happy just wherever I go.
Well, me too. And it's not about being first. It's really not. So the Monarch project is here to stay. It's still in its infancy. The people at RGI have been working with me. I've gotten them dozens and dozens and dozens of sheds, and so we're going to have a test for Monarch by the end of the year.
That's outstanding.
It's outstanding, yeah. They do have Monarch and Ultramel completely mapped, the genome, and he told me in last Tinley show, he said, I can tell you for sure that they are not the same snake. Because, for years, everybody said, that's just an Ultramel. We know
It's
not.
just a dark line of Ultramel.
Right. And now we have genetic proof. We have the genetic map that they are not the same snake.
That's outstanding.
So, got a long way to go with it. There's still a lot of stones to turn over. So, and it's still a very affordable,
Very much.
single gene recessive snake compared to Monsoon or Desert Ghost. It really is affordable. So that's not a sales pitch, but I think because it does have some resemblance to Ultramel, it might have held it back from entering the market at a $10,000 level or whatever. But that's okay too.
I don't care. It's going to always be in my racks. I love that.
Yeah, I don't care. But that's sort of the Monarch story. Rance, of course, we've had some naysayers along the way. Rance bought a pair of pastels from his buddy, who bought a pair of pastels from a pet shop. That's all we know about it. First year he hatched,
literally came out of a pet store.
Literally came out of a pet store. So we have no provenance. And a couple of years ago, there was somebody in the country that came and said, I know where those came from. Those are just Ultramel, so-and-so and so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. Of course, you hear all the naysayers. And now we know that he was just making up a tale because the genome, the genetic map, proves that it's not Ultramel. So, but yeah, they just came out of nowhere. I mean, literally, they did come out of nowhere, but they did. What a surprise. So, so I've been very fortunate to be a participant in that project.
I love it, Tom. I love it. If there was one thing that you could just speak to the viewers that watch this, what would you like to share, like kind of dive into people as they're either just starting their journey or just continuing in their journey with snakes? Right?
Yeah, I think the thing that has helped me is you can't do everything and do it well. And I think that's where people get lost. Saying, "Oh, I love that. I love it." Well, of course you do. I do. I love it all.
Ipso facto, you can't do a podcast to sell snakes.
Right. So don't get in fast. Do your homework. Find out what you love, and do that. And don't try to do